Oh, hello everybody. Welcome to Sunday Night Ghost Stories on a Sunday, as nature intended. Here we are in the library. Derpy is down there on the floor, but he's currently glaring at me because I think you want in on the action, don't you, Derps? Let's just clean the lens a bit more. Clean the camera. That's a bit better. That's a bit better. Oh, here he comes. Here he comes. Oh, come on, make your mind up, because bear in mind I've got shorts on tonight, so I don't want you digging your heels, digging your claws into my bare legs. So, anyway, welcome to Sunday Night Ghost Stories, or Sunday Night Cat Show, as it should be. What are we reading tonight? We are still reading Ghost Stations 4. I would say reading. I think we're suffering Ghost Stations 4 because it's hard going. As no doubt tonight I will go off track and I will yet again pick up on Bruce Barrymore Halpenny's shocking grasp of sentence construction and grammar. And anyway, Ghost Stations 4. There we go. What are we drinking tonight? 2 beer strategy. First is Leeds Brewery Hellfire Pale Ale, 5.2% premium pale ale. The ultimate pale ale, packed full of American hops. This beer is bursting with fruity citrus flavors, followed by a brilliantly refreshing, crisp, clean finish. Brewed in the UK at Kirkstall Brewery, Leeds, LS3 1HJ. Store cold, drink fresh. Well, that's certainly what we're going to do tonight. You right there, Derps? Can I make a space for you? There we go. What'd you do? Right. I'll move that out of the way for you. Goodness me. Tries to do ghost story show and is interrupted by Cat wanting to have the perfect sleeping spot. Anyway, all right. Before we get anywhere tonight, Dead Soldier and Run VT.
Oh, it's jolly nice of you. Hello, Dead Soldier. Seen plenty of those in my time.
In fact, it's going to be a Dead Soldier double bill because we're down to the last of the Highland Earl from Aldi. Let's just pour that one out. Yep. For the second time tonight, another Dead Soldier.
Oh, it's jolly nice of you. Hello, Dead Soldier. Seen plenty of those in my time.
Indeed. And more. Following in the wake of Ghost Stations 1, 2, and 3, I've received hundreds of letters, many just to say that they enjoyed the books, but others gave me more information for some of the stories already published. And so, and more, and so, ... and more, which and so, ... and more, which, updates and expands on some of the stories published in the Ghost Station series. I don't get, but others gave me more information for some of the stories already published. And so, and more, which updates and expands on some of the stories published in the Ghost Station series. Bruce, doesn't make sense. Paranormal happenings in Lincolnshire, Ghost Stations 2. In this chapter, we have the story about the little room in the haunted Red House at Ludford in Lincolnshire, and this prompted Hannah Hunt to send me a poem, The Secret Room. The poem is based on the mystery of Charlcombe Manor near Ilfracombe, where a secret room, discovered in 1865, contained the remains of Kate Otway, the wrecker's daughter. The secret room. She knew too much about their smuggling game. They gave her brandy and locked her up inside. The secret room in the lone house on the moor. They rode away, and no one ever came to bring her food or water when she cried aloud and shook the windows and the door. Only the silent stars looked sadly down as failing she dragged across the oaken floor to the great bed beside the padlocked door. Who was this skeleton they found at last, when years had passed, the lady or the whore? That doesn't even rhyme. I know they shouldn't rhyme, but I think we're going to struggle to fill the first half of the show with the remnants of Ghost Stations 3. Oh, actually, no. I think we can. I think we can go back and do Glenn Miller, if you'll pardon the expression. Yeah, I think we might do Glenn Miller tonight. So, Slage. That's actually very nice. That's very, very quaffable. Slage. The Haunted Hangar. In Ghost Stations, we did mention the couple who saw the lights flashing on and off in one of the hangars at RAF Hemswell. This is a picture of that haunted hangar. There it is. Bum, bum, bum. This is also the hangar in which many metallic noises have been heard, and Ted Gray sent in to say, I was walking back to my car and was just passing the hangar when suddenly there was a sound of an engine starting and a light came on in the hangar, then off again, and the engine stopped. I was petrified, for the place was deserted. Was it deserted? Ted Gray also said that he heard voices, but did not stop to find out any more as it was getting dark. I think we'll have another swig of the old beers. Oh, lovely. The Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine. Ghost Stations 2. Not as silly as it seems. Tom Burlett is another who has gold fever, and he claims to have found the gold, estimated to be worth over £20 billion. In 1958, Tom Burlett, then 18, was in the American Air Force and stationed at Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico, gold fever country, and he got it. He and 3 friends became fascinated by the numerous stories of gold mines and treasure and studied the archives for clues. Could they find the lost Dutchman's gold mine? From their research, they decided the treasure had to be buried in Victoria Peak Mountain, but this presented a problem, for this mountain was within the White Sands Missile Range. This was a top secret area. Holloman Air Force Base, formerly known as Alamogordo Army Airfield, dates back to the Second World War. Work started in 1942 and it opened in 1944 as a combat crew training centre. Its role was training replacement crews for the heavy bombardment groups which were based in England. Again, Bruce, that's not how... Its role was training replacement crews for the heavy bombardment groups which, comma, were based in England. It doesn't need the comma. On the 16th of July, 1945, the atomic age was born with the explosion of the first atomic bomb, Project Trinity, in the northwest corner of the airfield's bombing range, which became known as Trinity Site. He's done it again, which, comma, became known as Trinity Site. I get the funny feeling, ladies and gentlemen, that the late Bruce Barrymore Halpenny, there are two words which he obviously thinks must always be accompanied with a comma. One of those words is and the other one is which. He doesn't seem to appreciate it, breaks up the narrative flow. Anyway, when the Second World War ended, the base became redundant, but not for long. And in March 1946, the Air Materiel Command reactivated the base to provide facilities in the testing of pilotless aircraft, guided missiles, and allied equipment in support of the Air Materiel Command Research and Development Program. See, he's done it again. And, comma, allied equipment. It doesn't need the comma. On the 23rd of July 1947, the first experimental high-velocity ground-to-air pilotless aircraft was launched. On the 17th of February 1948, the base was renamed Holloman Air Force Base in honor of Colonel George V. Holloman, a pioneer in the guided missile research field. In October 1952, the base became Holloman Air Development Center and was designated as a permanent Air Force installation. That same year, the Holloman Test Range was integrated with the White Sands Proving Grounds under the control of the US Army. Holloman Air Force Base remained one of the primary locations for guided missile and space research and development. I'll read that again. Holloman Air Force Base remained one of the primary locations for guided missile and space research and development until 1968, when the 49th Tactical Fighter Wing was assigned to Holloman. Read that again. Holloman Air Force Base remained one of the primary locations for guided missile and space research and development until 1968, when the 49th Tactical Fighter Wing was assigned to Holloman, blah, blah, blah. Holloman Air Force Base is approximately 10 miles southwest of Alamogordo and 86 miles north of El Paso, Texas. The base adjoins and lies in part with the White Sands Missile Range, or as Bruce writes it, the base adjoins and, comma, lies in part, comma, within the White Sands Missile Range, which comma, extends roughly 90 miles to the north and northwest, comma, 38 miles to the northwest, and, comma, 34 miles to the south and southwest from the base. Right, let's read that in English now, shall we? The base adjoins and lies in part within the White Sands Missile Range, which extends roughly 90 miles to the north and northwest. Proper use of a comma, 38 miles to the west and 34 miles to the south and southwest from the base. So in that entire sentence, he's put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 commas. It only needs one, Bruce. It was to hear that Airman, remember him? It was to hear that Airman Tom Burlett was posted, a posting that was to change his life. After secretly searching for many weeks deep inside the White Sands Missile Range, Burlett and his 3 friends found a small cave on the northwest side of Victoria Peak Mountain. An instinct told them they had found it. Had this opening been caused by the atomic bomb blast a decade earlier? Had they stumbled upon the Apache treasure? Gonna let the suspense build up on that, I think. Let's lounge. Over the next few weeks, the 4 men returned as often as possible and dug deeper into the cave. 2 men dug, while the other 2 rested and kept watch. For many months, they toiled in their search for the gold. Then, according to Tom Burlett, they suddenly broke through into a treasure room that was filled with gold bars and a large wooden cross. Burlett said he could see through a narrow gap another room which also seemed to be filled with gold bars. The 4 men could not believe their eyes. gold bars beyond one's wildest dreams. They did not remove the gold bars, but to prove that they had been there, they scratched their initials on 5 of them and hid them. But where? That is the $64,000 question. Where? Surely the best thing would have been to have returned with a gold bar. In 1880, the 2 soldiers brought back with them gold nuggets as their proof that they had found the lost gold mine. The gold speaks louder than words. This could have been the Apache gold that Burlett and his 3 friends had found. To see the gold would be proof enough. The men reported their find to the military authorities, and by doing so, they were told they faced disciplinary action for being in an off-limit area. The officers at Holloman did not believe their story. They needed proof, but without the gold, they could not offer any. Why did they not take the officers to the cave? They had been going there for months, so they knew where it was. But for some reason, that was not done. However, in 1961, Burlett and his 3 friends convinced 3 of the officers at Holloman that their story was true. They formed a group called the 7 Heirs and made a claim on the gold. They pressed their claim, and by doing so, the authorities gave Tom Burlett and his friend, Captain Leonard Feege, permission to dig for the gold in the Victoria Peak Mountain. They had 4 months in which to find the vast Apache treasure. But after 2 days, they were told to stop when the widow of Milton Noss, a prospector who had claimed to have found the gold in 1937, but he never went back for it, and its location died with him in 1949, staked her own claim on the gold. Prospector Milton Noss could well have found the gold in 1947, but why did he return empty-handed? Surely the sight of all that gold would make you want to bring some back. Could the reason be an unseen force compelled those who found it not to do so? Why a wooden cross in with the gold? Holloman did not become a military area until 1942, so Milton had plenty of time to return and get the gold. Why wait? Does some ghostly force guard the gold? In 1989, still feels like the recent past, 37 years ago, 37 years ago. In 1989, NBC television highlighted the case and, the program created so much interest that Congress agreed to allow treasure hunters on the mountain to try and find the gold. Let's read that properly in English. In 1989, NBC television highlighted the case, and the program created so much interest that Congress agreed to allow treasure hunters onto the mountain to try and find the gold. With a vast fortune at stake, the 7 heirs and Mr. Noss's descendants called a truce. Of the 4 airmen who saw the gold, only Tom Burlett remains. Will he ever see the gold again? If it is found, it will be handed over to the state of New Mexico, and the courts will decide how it will be divided. But they have to find it first. Sophisticated radar and drilling equipment in search of the Apache treasure. Sophisticated radar and drilling equipment in search of the Apache treasure. They need more than that, for this is Apache country and the home of the Apache spirits. I think that definitely does deserve a... Oh, Bruce, you do make this. These are interesting stories, but you do make it bloody hard work, quite frankly. I do apologise for the profanity, folks, but Bruce forces you to swear. So, cheers, me beard. Oh, delicious. Oh, we've got some fan mail. Let's just read the fan mail. Bear with, folks. I'm just fan mailing here. We want the Wi-Fi on, but we don't need the Bluetooth. So, oh, hang about. The beer burps at 22 minutes and 54 seconds, 53 seconds actually. Right, let's crack on. The ghost stories. The Silent Few, Ghost Stations 3. The old wartime airfield of Tangier has more than one ghost. Much more information has come to light following The Silent Few in Ghost Stations 3. Harry Jury wrote to say, "During my service at Royal Air Force Tangier in 1952 to 1957, I did many duties as a night guard commander. On numerous occasions, many of the lads doing guard duties reported seeing a ghost lady in grey floating around the PBX signals, number 1 squadron and an electrical section, which is now Tangier Museum." Doesn't need, he's done a witch and he's put a comma in afterwards. Doesn't need the comma, Bruce. I, like other guard commanders, had many refusals to work that section. We all endeavoured to put new arrivals on it, ever hoping for a peaceful tour of duty. But some came back white with fear. I had one man running back. He had even messed himself with fright. The man who ran back in fear, in a very sorry state, said he had seen a blurred vision of a waff. Harry Jury listened to his story. "Having been around airfields, I was sceptical, as I was always in the guard room," he said. Harry Jury had indeed been around many airfields. He joined in February 1947 and served on many stations in the United Kingdom and Malaya as a supply specialist, with service also in the Army 656 AOP on liaison duties. The Ghost Lady in Grey at RAF Tangier, at Royal Air Force Tangier, is reputed to be a wartime WAF who was killed during an air raid on the airfield. That would account why so many reported seeing a blurred vision of a WAF. Harry Jury wanted to find out if there was any truth in any of the reputed Ghost Lady in Grey sightings, and he contacted Mr. Hill, who was a radio engineer at Tangier. He said it had been a known fact for years, so I had to accept it, said Harry Jury. That doesn't even make sense. That just... nothing happened, and also nothing happened. Oh, Bruce, what are we up to? 26 minutes. Right, we'll try and get these last ones over the line before we go to Glenn Miller. A big thank you to viewers Kirsten and Steve in the United States for the magnificent Rush beer glass. Look at that. Awesome sauce. It says on the back, books are for tourists, beer is for geniuses. I kind of agree with that. So, Slange. Your good health. Oh. Flying saucers, fact or fiction? Ghost Stations 3. What a field day for the media the crop circles provided. All good to sell newspapers. Henrik Ibsen, the Norwegian dramatist and poet, said, Fools are in a terrible, fools are in a terrible, overwhelming majority all the world over. Quite ironic that, because Henrik Ibsen did write a play called Ghosts, which is about syphilis, and I actually appeared in a production of that. I played Mad Sea Captain Jacob Engstrand. That was the year after I played Mad Sea Captain Captain Cat in Undermilk Wood. I was only 16, 17. I was already being typecast. How true. In the Sunday Express, 22nd of May, 1990. I don't think how true in the Sunday Express are words we can merge together. Anyway, mystery circles crop up again. Then in the Times, Saturday, the 23rd of July, 1990, farmers fear mysterious vicious circle. An article by Nick Nuttall, technology correspondent. They came thick and fast. In the Daily Express, Monday, the 25th of June, 1990, UFO shot down by Russians. The little green men are really upon us. Then more from the Sunday Express, 24th of June, 1990. Crop circles explanation stirs the air. And they quote Dr. Terence Meaden, who claimed that the corn circles are caused by swirling electronically charged columns of air produced by atmospheric changes. But that was not the end of it. In The People, 15th of July, 1990, spinning top secret of magic rings. The circles have become magic rings now, and to prove their point, there was a photograph of one of the giant corn circles. This time it was the turn of Dr. John Graham to join the publicity hype. This time it was the turn of Dr. John Graham to join the publicity hype circles. Bruce, stop overusing commas. This time it was the turn of Dr. John Graham to join the publicity hype corn circles bandwagon. So is that the end of it? I do hope so. No, still more to come. Just look at the mileage the media have had out of those old corn cliches. On Wednesday, the 18th of July, 1990, Today front page. They're speaking to us in code. And to back up their headline, a colour photograph of these bizarre circles in the corn. And the Today quoted circles expert Colin Andrew, who said, "It is so elaborate it can't be a hoax." So there you have it. They are so intelligent, these little green men. They just make circles in the corn. And I gave up reading corn circles after I left kindergarten school. Blast. Then time to gather in the harvest, and in The People, 29th of July, 1990, the front page headlines. We have solved it, but how? See pages 12 and 13, and inside, how to make these corn circles. The world, except readers of Ghost Stations 3, hoaxed by 59-year-old Fred Day, and it was exclusive story, and it was an exclusive story, say The People. The harvest gathered in. Amen. Bruce, none of that makes any sense. That doesn't even read as literal English. Slange. Yet, I had said this from the outset and, readers of my Ghost Stations 3 book knew that all these corn circles were hoaxes. Right. Now in English. Yet, I had said this from the outset, and readers of my Ghost Stations 3 book knew that all these corn circles were hoaxes. See page 43 of Ghost Stations 3. I said I would not dwell upon these circles, for not a grain of truth in it. The answer lies in a pair of size 14 boots. Did they mention Ghost Stations 3 had it right? No, not one of them. I told the truth, and they did not want to hear. They were each sent a copy of Ghost Stations 3. Not one gave it a mention. They never took the trouble to answer my letters or acknowledge the book. Such was their relentless search for the truth about the corn circles. The corn circles were linked to UFOs, and in August 1990, Peter Grosvenor gave great coverage to a book he had reviewed, which was about UFOs and gave reference to our own crop circles. So let us look at the facts about all these alleged UFO sightings. Flying saucers, fact or fiction? I did explain that outer space is a big area. Gone a bit Douglas Adams now. So let us all look at it another way. If we cannot explain what they are, we can explain what they are not. They are not from beyond the Southern Cross. RAF Flyingdales in Yorkshire has a secondary role of space surveillance, and, the radar used is powerful enough to detect an object as small as a football, hundreds of miles into space. Again, let's read that in English. RAF Flyingdales in Yorkshire has a secondary role of space surveillance, and the radar used is powerful enough to detect an object as small as a football, hundreds of miles into space. All day and every day, RAF Flyingdales scans the sky, and on average, they track about 2,000 satellites each week. And to give you some idea of the magnitude, some 38,000 space objects are detected in a 24-hour period. The space track task of RAF Flyingdales, the space track task of Royal Air Force the space track task of Royal Air Force Flyingdales is to provide satellite observational data to the Space Surveillance Center at Cheyenne Mountain Air Force Base at Colorado Springs, so that special analysts can keep track of the constantly changing satellite population. Information also goes to the Royal Aircraft Establishment at Farnborough and the Royal Greenwich Observatory. Therefore, if RAF Flyingdales cannot get a fix on any of these flying saucer sightings, we can safely say they are not from outer space. Sorry, no close encounter from outer space. That's pretty much it for tonight. Well, no, that's pretty much it for that chapter, but we are going to go back and reread Glenn Miller, because we kind of skirted over that one with good reason, because it goes on far too bloody long. So, right. Slange. JM, I think you're going to have a hard task eating them, because those are your glasses wiped. That's your Thai chili rice snack. Right. Oh. Lovely. Well, for the second beer tonight, it is our favourite, the Love Lane Brewery Blackbird Extra Stout, 6.7%. Oh my goodness me. This stuff does not mess around, he says as he spills some all over the floor. So what's on the recipe for the rest of tonight? What do you reckon, Derps? I think we'll go downstairs and we'll watch some. I think we'll watch an episode of The Goodies, actually. We've got the DVD out, so. Our Brackham. And we've got some fan mail here. Let's just read the fan mail. Sorry, folks, just playing catch up with some of the comments. Right, shall we crack on with the rest of the Ghost Stories show? You know what? We're not going to read the story I was going to read. We were going to play catch up on Glenn Miller, but it's too involved. Just having a look to see. No, we are going to read something completely different. So we are into Legends of Exmoor, or Legends of Exmoor by Jack Hurley. Legends are like stalks that have grown out of a grain of truth and have remained waving like a magic wand. It is difficult to grasp them cleanly without something else coming away in one's hand. A bit of ghost, a little lore, or the root of a tradition. The extraness cannot be discarded. Indeed, it contributes to the legend's weight. For this, God, this night to be reading a story, reading a book written by somebody who understands English. For this reason, I have tried to examine the backgrounds against which the legends in this book are set. In nearly every story, a certain amount of fact is a foundation. In the exceptions, such as the pixie and the woman into hair tails, one must admire the old storytellers for such a display of conviction that one feels like apologizing for a disbelieving mind. The purest legend inventions, perhaps, are the very extremes, and the devil and his astonishing physical labours on the other hand, the early Christian saints and their adventures on the other. The rubber of the 20th century skepticism never succeeds entirely in erasing a legend. Perversely, and rather delightfully, traditional belief has unusually defeated reasoned argument. An ecclesiastical commission of inquiry may pronounce that a certain widow never reappeared after her death, yet it fails to kill the belief at the time and cannot expunge the legend. No treasure is buried underneath Exmoor's famous Caractacus stone, but that does not stop a secretive visit to the place by night and an apparent attempt to start a dig. In the 20th century too, an Elizabethan cannonball flies thousands of miles to land at the portals of an old mansion. Nonsense. Yet, on a 20th century occasion, an almost fearful mark of respect is shown for the story. Did the Exmoor farmer always thresh his own corn, or was he helped by the little pixie people? What broke an attic window of Barden House? Stone throwing by youngsters, or was it the tapping of a mysterious white dove enshrining the spirit of a beheaded queen? The aim of this book, a collection of legend, lore, and inevitably a few ghostly attachments, is escapism for the reader into imagination's airy upland. Exmoor has many waymarked walks, but beware capricious pixies who may still confound the signs and lead walkers from Dan to Beersheba instead of from Mounsey to Mouse Hanger. The dunes of Exmoor have been deliberately excluded from this book. However, the case for one of the Lorna Doone characters, highwayman Tom Faggus, fact or fiction, is examined. For Tom is capable of leading an existence independent of Blackmore's story. I think we'll put a fresh bookmark in there. Legends of Exmoor by Jack Hurley. Winner, Christmas dinner. Oh, hang about, we've still pouring this one out. Oh my goodness me, right. So this is Love Lane Brewery Blackbird Extra Stout, brewed under the watchful eyes of the liver birds. Roasted barley, flaked oats, and a selection of dark malts are combined to create a robust dark stout with notes of coffee, rich toffee, and chocolate, finished with a lingering tannic bitterness. A special release from Love Lane. 6.7%. Oh my goodness me. What do you know? We have a dead soldier. And Run VT.
Oh, it's jolly nice of you. Hello, dead soldier. Seen plenty of those in my time.
Ha 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 ha. Indeed. Slange. Oh, delicious. The White Dove of Baden. Is there a prettier legend than one showing a pure white dove as the spirit of a dead queen? A dove that flies where trees crowd into a shade around an ancient manor house, flies purposefully to an attic window, taps with its beak and beats its wings, taps again through days and weeks, insistent upon a response, and harder, until one day it breaks the window. Is there something in this to which attention is being drawn? Secluded Baden House lies at the northeast corner of Exmoor National Park in the parish of Old Cleve. Probably it has been a homestead from very early times, for Baden is a variation of Barton, deriving from the Anglo-Saxon Bereton, corn farm. But it was during its long occupancy by successive generations of the Lee family of lawyers, beginning some 400 years ago, that Baden achieved notice on 3 counts, with a dramatic climax in 1836. These counts are legend, historical fact. These counts are legend, historical fact with which legend has been interwoven, and ghost. Master of Baden in 1836 was Robert Lee, one of the long lawyer line. One day the servants reported that an attic window was broken and Lee ordered its repair. But a few days later he was annoyed to be told that the window was again broken. And this time the servants had a strange story. They had seen a white dove fly repeatedly against the pane. Lee was incredulous. He was disposed to blame stone throwing by young gardeners, but the servants held to their story. The window breaker was a white dove. At length, Lee decided to take a look in the attic. He noticed an old box and had it opened. Inside were documents which had nothing to do with any legal affairs known to him, and they raised a mystery. What were they in Baden House why were they in Baden House at all? Probably up to, haven't quite got to the hour mark yet, but slangs move on. Oh, delicious. Oh, deliciouser. The Babington Plot. Lee had found state papers, and at the time of their writing they must have been of vital importance. State papers found in an obscure country house 160 miles from London through the window-breaking agency of a white dove. Legend and mystery were now conjoined. Examination showed the papers that concerned the relations between Queen Elizabeth I and Mary, Queen of Scots, after the latter had become a virtual prisoner in England in 1568. Oh good, we haven't had Mary, Queen of Scots for some stories now. They were also a commentary on the Babington Plot against the life of Elizabeth, and presented in a way that implicated Mary right up to her pretty neck, on which the executioner's axe fell in 1587. These writings spared nothing that would bring Mary's past to remembrance. They set forth her supposed misdeeds. Every circumstance that could be contrived to her detriment had been entered, but they also contain Mary's denial of the allegations. The historical value of such documents was plain, and in 1870 the British Museum acquired them from Baden. Dr. Charles Cotton, who married into the Lee family, edited them, and they were printed in the Camden Society Publications, 3rd series, number 7, 1909. I think we've got pretty much the last story for tonight here. So slides we are. Oh, good help. You know what? We are going to have some more wasabi rice snacks. Japanese style rice snacks. Crack on with the ghost story, shall we? Rather than eating Japanese style rice snack mix. So, the pretty fancy. The attachment of both legend and mystery to the facts make the Barden story. First, the white dove. Did it really appear? According to more than one servant, it did, and it becomes one of the prettiest fancies in the realm of legend. The spirit of Mary, Queen of Scots, taking the form of a dove, white to denote innocence and seeking to draw attention to the whereabouts of documents containing her denial of the treason with which she was charged. The legend binds those very documents that are historical fact and are now registered as the Barden Papers. One may ask why the ill-starred Queen, in her dove-like form, waited centuries to have the papers discovered. But if all things could be explained, how naked would Lady Legend become? It has been assumed that the papers had lain at Barden a great many years, and there is no answer to the question of queenly patience. But after the discovery, the dove appeared no more to beat its wings against the window pane. Oh, quick look at the time. No, very good. Sounds. You good health. The Throckmortons. One mystery propounds another. Why were such papers in a West Country house that had no connection with national events of the time? One suggestion borders on the just possible. The papers were in a container known as the Throckmorton box. One of the Barden Lees, who had been lawyer to Sir Robert Throckmorton, who owned property in the immediate locality, and also on the southern edge of Exmoor at Molland, where the family is still known. Read that again. Oh, the beer burps. I do apologise. One of the Barden Lees had been lawyer to Sir Robert Throckmorton, who owned property in the immediate locality and also on the southern edge of Exmoor at Molland, where the family is still known. In the intrigue surrounding Queen Elizabeth's throne, Throckmorton, like Babington, was a familiar and sinister name. There was Francis Throckmorton, a zealous Catholic who engaged in plots abroad against the English government and was arrested in England while acting as confidential agent of a conspiracy for the invasion of this country by a French army. The purpose was to release Mary, Queen of Scots, and set her on the throne in place of Elizabeth, who was to be assassinated. Francis Throckmorton, turns page, Francis Throckmorton, or what was left of him after the hideous pattern of torture in the Tower of London, was executed at Tyburn. His brother Thomas settled in Paris as an agent of Mary. Another of the family, Sir Nicholas, although a Protestant, is said to have believed in the justice of Mary's claim to the English throne and to have succumbed to her personal charm. Perhaps these papers came into the possession of the Throckmorton family generations after the recorded events and were sent to repose with the family's lawyer at Baden, there forgotten until a white dove drew attention to them in 1836. Almost up to the hour mark. Slange. Oh, delicious. In the magnificent United Federation of Planet Shot Glass, let's try and get that a bit better. In the magnificent United Federation of Planet Shot Glass, again, courtesy of viewers Kirsten and Steve in the United States, slange me bar. Make it so. Historical underlining. The papers throw much light on the trial of Mary. They are the historical underlining of the White Dove legend. Small wonder that the spirit of the Queen was so insistent upon their discovery. In 1584, Queen Elizabeth's ministers, particularly Burghley and Walsingham, intensified their vigilance in detecting conspiracies. They composed counterfeit letters in Mary, Queen of Scots' name, and had them delivered into the homes of Roman Catholics. For Walsingham ran a very efficient establishment of spies and informers. When Mary was finally tried for complicity in the Babington plot against Elizabeth, a letter purporting to have been sent by Mary to Babington played a vital part in bringing her to the headsman's block. But the letter had been concocted in Walsingham's office. Mary's signature had been formed. But the letter had been, it's been a long day, folks, but the letter had been concocted in Walsingham's office and Mary's signature had been forged. Her friends maintained, even at the point at their peril, that the letter was a fabrication. 1 hour and 1 minute. Goodness me. Slange. Oh. Delicious. The Ghost. As if the White Dove legend coupled with historical fact were not enough for one house, Baden has been noted for its ghosts. According to one tradition, one of the Lees had been a wanderer in the grounds, carrying a head, not his own, under his arm. The Baden coach and horses arrive with the crunch of wheels and hooves on the gravel drive. Sound without vision, this, but reported in recent years when Mr. and Mrs. Edward Collier were in residence. And in the house has been heard plaintive music, as might be drawn from a spinet or harpsichord. Doubtless the player is the white-haired lady of sorrowful countenance, who is wont to glide through the rooms in a dress of rustling silk. Among the outdoor phantoms is the inevitable black dog, a manifestation that legend makes common to several places on Exmoor. It is a curious facet of Baden history that the house, so long the abode of lawyers, continued as such after the Lees had gone. The last Lee instructed Thomas Ponsford in law. The last Lee instructed Thomas Ponsford in law there, and he became principal of a firm of solicitors, which is in practice in again. I see how this goes now. The last Lee instructed Thomas Ponsford in law there, and he became principal of a firm of solicitors, the last Lee instructed Thomas Ponsford in law there, and he became principal of a firm of solicitors, which is in practice at Willerton today as Risdon and Company. Thomas Joyce, who lived at Baden and was a former partner in the solicitor's firm, claimed to have seen the black dog on the lawn, and recounted the incident to Clement Killie, a journalist who wrote for the West Somerset Free Press. Another sighting was claimed by a member of the Lee family, Miss Catherine St. B. Lee. She, in 1922, stole. Again. Another sighting was claimed by a member of the Lee family, Miss Catherine St. B. Lee. She, in 1922, told Clement Killie's son, Herbert. All right, last bit for tonight, folks. Goodness me. Sloan. Last bit of this chapter. You're good help. Exorcism. That the Baden spirits had been exorcised early in the 19th century by 7 parsons with bell, book and candle was another story told to Clement Killie by an old local inhabitant. The parsons caused the spirits to assume the form of a black dog. A servant seized the animal, put a halter about its neck and threw it into the nearest pond. The parson had charged the servant not to look behind him after disposing of the dog, but, like Lot's wife, he could not resist a peep. No, the pond was all aflame. Obviously, the exorcism was none too successful, for the black dog was able to appear to Thomas Joyce many years. The pond was obviously the exorcism was none too successful, for the black dog was able to appear to Thomas Joyce many years later. Baden has never lost its reputation for ghosts. In recent years, the TV cameras have tried to capture them, but they have been exceedingly shy. Pass the drive to the house and you may see a white shape flit soundlessly from a tree. Not a dog. Pass the drive to the house and you may see a white shape flit soundlessly from a tree. Not a white dove making for an attic window, just an owl after a mouse. I think we'll hit the old thunderclap with that. Oh my goodness me. What are we up to? Just gone through the hour mark. So that's it for tonight. Fingers crossed. We'll be back on Wednesday for Sunday Night Ghost Stories Extra. I've got to try and remember how the week works here at the moment, because we used to do a Monday show, but Oh, the beer burps again. Do apologise. We used to do a Monday show, but I decided that it was eating its way through the Scotch far too freely. So we're back to Sundays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So fingers crossed, we'll be back on Wednesday for Sunday Night Ghost Stories Extra. Until then, it behoves me to say thank you for watching. Why? Why not? What else are you going to do on a Sunday night than watch a confused man from Dudley with holes in his head, drink ghost stories, and read alcohol badly? So until the next time, as ever, thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay out of trouble, and please don't have nightmares. Good night.